It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyrone Lowe. The show is called The Legends. I want to thank everybody all over the world that actually subscribes and actually follows my show. In the House of the Legend, he's an author, and he has a book out, and it's called World Peace. And when we do this interview, it's actually going to tell you what it's all about and what it actually symbolizes. In the House of the Legends, I give you Mr. Burl Minnis. Welcome to the Legends. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Lowe.
Okay.
This is
So we're going to talk about your book, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about you, where you're based from and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from New Jersey. The story of how all this got started is really, I was a student at Rutgers, so I'm an alum.
Okay.
And the Alumni Association usually sends you out notices about, people who are speaking and stuff like that. So back in 2003, the Dalai Lama was coming to Rutgers in East Brunswick.
Okay.
And he was speaking on war, peace, and reconciliation. I'm prior service, so I want to hear this, right?
Right.
And my girlfriend's like, yeah, we got to go. So we were...
Okay.
We were in attendance there, and among like everything else that he said, honestly, people, if you ever get a chance to see the Dalai Lama, I heartily recommend it.
Okay.
But on this oration, among all the other things that he said, he thought that if world peace were to happen in our lifetime, it was going to have to come out of the United States.
Okay.
I took that as a challenge,
Right.
I'm weird like that. But, any other time, it would come any other place, and I'm paraphrasing this a lot. But, he thought that it would be coming out of the United States, so I took a look at it. And I started doing a research survey of world peace, everything that was involved in that, anything that we might hold in vile disdain and point a crickety finger at as being our problems, turns out is all systemic. It's
Okay.
one big system. And that system emerged 13,000 years ago.
Okay.
We created it for ourselves as a mechanism to survive an event. We don't actually know what happened, but the planet burned 13,000 years ago, 12,900 years ago to be exact. You dig down 50 feet into virgin soil, anywhere on this rock, you find the same layer of ash.
Okay.
If you've got potable water, biogenic elements, and the ability to raise fire, humans can live anywhere in the universe, literally. And
Just with those elements.
just with those three. That's
Okay.
all we need.
All right.
Actually, it's all that any life needs on Earth: potable water, biogenic elements, basically your groceries, and the ability to raise fire, generate power, right? With those three things, we can exist and persist literally everywhere in the universe.
Okay.
Eliminate even one, and we can't even exist here, let alone persist. We have to have all three, and we lost two when the planet burned.
Okay.
There was no longer any, biogenic elements for us to eat. All we had was livestock. There was nothing to burn. Everything was burnt, right? Prior to that event, we had a unilateral egalitarianism. It was a gifting system of economy, and it was enjoyed by all humans on the planet at the time.
Right.
Well, 45,000 years ago, that was just us. Everybody was gone by then, So we only had ourselves, but we were everywhere, So we had this little unilateral egalitarianism set up. And you can look at, the megalithic architecture, the planet-wide, right? And you're going to find flora and fauna which are not indigenous. We were definitely bringing stuff there, and it kept us alive through that 115,000 years of the Ice Age, And when that event transpired, we had to come up with something. We had to think of something, some way of doing that, because, I got to get from here to Göbekli Tepe or something like that, in southern Turkey, that megalithic architectural site. It's a giant picnic table, If I've got to get my foodstuffs, all my surplus to there, I'll never make it.
Okay. So the elements that you're talking about, are they actually man-made or something that
Yeah,
scientists just put together as far as something?
It's like wheats, grains, you know, all the stuff that we eat.
Okay.
You know, basically.
Natural stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and we went from a loose a loose association type of hunter-gatherer society, and we stopped, right? We actually became pastoral. If you move, you live, right? If you sedentate, you die. That's widely known. It's a principle of thermodynamics even, right?
Okay.
So something had to make us want to stop as a species, right? And that was the realization of the value of surplus. We can make way more than we need for even the worst year, and now we don't have to travel. We'll do it right here.
Right.
And anything we don't need, we'll drop off over on the picnic table and somebody else can have it. It was a gifting system of economy,
Okay.
right? And that kept us safe from all the other predators around and stuff like that. We didn't look like a smorgasbord, you know?
Okay.
So we could get rid of all our surplus. We could have whatever we needed for the worst possible year, and we don't have to move. So now we became that pastoral society. And everything was going on hunky-dory, and then something happened. You know, the planet burned. We don't know how. It's irrelevant, really. It happened. And we had to get creative. So instead of, you know, with all our chickens and our cows, you know, we had dogs then for about 2,000 years.
Right.
We'd started crowding dogs like 15,000 years ago, dogs and cats. So we had them around also. And, you know, we got to try to get across this howling wilderness of frozen ash. It ain't happening. So I'll use this seashell to represent a purse full of chickens, and this seashell to represent a pocket full of cows, and I can make it. I just got to get that guy over there to agree to it.
Right.
Commonly agreed upon value.
Okay.
It's fiction. It's not real.
Okay. My question is, what actually gave you an interest in world peace?
Just listen to the Dalai Lama. That was it. Yeah, hearing that oration. It was on war, peace, and reconciliation. If you ever get a chance to read it, read it. It's definitely well worth reading. It was really impressive. It's the first time I'd ever seen him. It's really the first time I'd ever heard him speak.
Right.
But and I'm a researcher. I'm kind of weird like that too.
Right,
You know.
okay.
So this was just an opportunity for me. And
Okay.
I have to tell you, people of Earth, hear me. Thank you for my life. I might sound like I'm dismayed about all of this, but I absolutely am not. This has been an absolute pleasure. I got to meet people all over the globe, and not just them, but their peoples as well, their cultures as well. I got to tell you, I would never have done any of this if it weren't for all of them. Never. I genuinely adore the species of man, and you guys will want for nothing as long as there's breath in my lungs. I got your backs.
Okay.
So this is world peace, and it's an announcement. It's not a book release.
Okay.
This is an assignment, right? It's not just light reading material. So this is what the majority have said on the matter. I'm just telling you what they said. And if you have any questions, hit me up. I'll be happy to talk to it. I'll come to a cafeteria near you. So,
What do world peace mean to you, man?
yeah, so, okay. That's actually an excellent question, because if we're thinking unity, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
Even though we as a species now are extinct, and that nature of extinction is a genetic threshold that we crossed from which there's no return. You know, we are literally, all of us, the siblings of Y chromosomal Adam 225,000 years ago and mitochondrial Eve 168,000 years ago. There is no human alive today or will ever live that isn't literally our sibling. And even the Aboriginals, they're like 60,000 years old. Yeah, they're our siblings.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going back to 168 and 225,000. Now, when we say unity, right, for world peace, that's not actually going to happen. You're not going to get there, right? There are going to be differences. And the way humans roll, that's actually kind of good, because we tribe, right, up to about 440 individuals or so, and then we splinter off. We refer to it as wanderlust, but it's really just retribing. Governance is easy this way, and when it gets too big, we splinter off. And those tribes identify as like a nation, you know, but I'm talking like more on the natural order of nation. You know, I mean, like, think prairie dog colonies, you know, those are huge. You know, we do the same thing. Our tribes get together and we nation. And then multiple nations would crowd other humans. When Neanderthal was still here, we're 3% Neanderthal DNA. You know, when Denisovan was still here, you know, you go down to the Philippines and you can find 5% Denisovan DNA. The Sherpas, right, the high altitude guys, the Denisovan DNA is called the super athlete gene. It allows the muscles to continue to work at high altitudes. So those guys, you know, so we crowd, you know, that's how we roll as a species. So there are going to be some differences. So if you're looking for unity, that is not what world peace is. World peace is simply rational, reasonable, right action, you know, advanced problem solving, none of the nonsense that's killed us, right? All of that system of human misery for 13,000 years has brought about our extinction. Now, we invented it to save us, and it most certainly did. We just never turned it off.
Okay.
And by having not turned it off, it's now been the result of our extinction.
My question to you is what you're talking about as far as world peace. Due to the fact that it isn't an equation by itself, but does that have anything to do with world segregation as well?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the unification process and the way that man has actually put it down on earth for different people. I wouldn't say people of color and things of that nature. I'm not even going to get into that type of thing. But unification process of actually getting people to actually acknowledge what unification it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I said, when I did this research, I practically did a world tour: Asia, Latin America, Central Europe, Africa. So I've been a number of places in doing this, and I think the central unification point is the common relationship of all of us, right? You're not going to get much past that we're siblings, right? That much we can establish, right? Everything else is going to be a matter of preference. It's going to be a matter of prejudices. It's going to be a matter of mores and all these interests that we have, right? So those are the things that we'll find unique among each of us.
You know, my question to you is, what global issues do you believe pose the biggest barrier to peace today?
Trash and war.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say, as far as today, is it going to be inferior, or is it going to be something that's going to be a quality of life?
What ends up happening is we end up being free, right? So there's three questions that you're going to be able to answer when you finish reading that book that are not expressed in the book anywhere. You know, is a slave actually a slave if they don't know what slavery is? Is a slave actually a slave if they don't realize they're being enslaved? And is a slave actually a slave if they don't mind, right? Those three things you're going to be able to answer by the time you finish that book.
Okay.
Trash and war, those are the things that killed us. This is common knowledge, right? Those are the questions that you're going to have to answer when you finish reading the book.
Do you think world peace is achievable, in a sense?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as current events, as far as now.
Yeah,
because we got a lot going on right now. So
I made this as simple as is humanly possible. So for the last 10 years, so in 2003, it took until 2012 to actually solve for it. So in like December of 2012, you know, I was doing back handsprings for a couple of months, you know, indulging myself. But then I started taking it to paper. And in 2015, I started sending it to every world power, the powers that be, basically. I sent it to the International Criminal Court, Interpol, NATO, here in Congress got a copy, the president, every attorney's general with an email pretty much.
Okay.
The Supreme Court got their copy. So everybody has looked at this, and they had one instruction over 10 years: poke holes in it. Nothing. Crickets. It's
Really?
irrefutable. It's undeniable. Yep, nailed it. Congratulations, kid. So I do expect that it's going to improve our lives considerably, but not anything that you might notice, because nothing changes for us. We still do everything the same way,
Right.
you know? It's just that we're free in doing that. We are no longer subjugated while doing that. So life actually becomes a lot better, but we have everything we have now. We do everything that we do now, you know. It's just without that system of all human misery.
Due to the fact that you reached out, that you know, to the channels of the way that you did reach out, what was the reply?
Well, they don't have agency in this. So this is world peace. This is not a joke. It's not a book, it's an assignment. Everybody needs to chime in. The International Criminal Court is expecting our correspondences, and they have been since the 11th. So feel free to chime in anytime, right? Okay. The powers that be cannot make this decision for us. Regardless of whether you elected them, regardless of whether you appointed them, regardless, they're not every human on the planet, and they don't speak for every human on the planet.
Right.
Every human on the planet has to do that. Okay. And that's an imperative. The International Criminal Court is expecting our correspondences. They used to have this email server, right? 350 million hits, and it goes, keats up, yeah, no. Right. So they got a portal. They built this portal, and they had it ready by September, which was when the book was originally supposed to launch.
Right.
And it was out on the 11th, but these guys were actually ready. And it'll take 4.1 billion hits without going down. That's half the population of the planet.
Okay.
So these guys have actually stepped up to receive your, your contributions, your submissions, your voice, and all we do is contribute our voice to them. And they got a little portal set up. It's really nice. You could even do it anonymously if you want.
So we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house. It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house.
And we're back. We're back with Mr. Burl Minnis. Mr. Minnis, let's talk about human misery.
Yeah, it's systemic.
Before you even do it, define to the viewers what that really means.
All right, so all of human misery, everything you might imagine, from the personal, right, to the global, everything you might imagine as miserable is actually part of a larger system, right? Now, there was this guy, right, back in '63. His name was Robert T. Payne. He was this zoologist. He was studying a tide pool, right? And he coined the term like ecosystem, and he coined the term eco-keystone, and he noticed that in any system, you could remove components and nothing happens, but remove just that right component and the entire system changes.
It's like a chemical reaction.
Almost.
Okay.
And it doesn't even have to be like the apex predator from that. In his case, it was a piece of seaweed, But
Really?
it changed the entire ecosystem for that tide pool. And it was like, he published us on it and stuff like that. And it's kind of like discovering planets. Once you know how, they're everywhere. And it's the same thing with the systemics. People started looking at systems all over the place, and everyone's got a keystone. Our system of human misery has got one also. And it was the first industrial accident of man. It predated the wheel and the plow by 7,000 years, and we invented it to save ourselves. The archaeological record is replete with evidence of this. And everybody else said this stuff, not me. I'm just telling you what they said.
Okay.
And you can make up the stories however you like, but the simple fact remains, we need to create a token-based currency system that was predicated on fiction. Anytime you throw fiction at reality, reality is going to slap it down in a heartbeat, right? as is evidenced by murders of millions. You know, you can't have war without politics. War requires politics.
Right. And speaking of that, well, what role should the government play in maintenance as far as maintaining and promoting world peace?
Well, they don't actually have to do anything, right?
Okay.
So when I say people of Earth, hear me, that means leave your job at the door, leave your title at the door. I'm talking to humans.
Right, okay.
I'm talking to the humans everywhere, you know, absent any of those constructs, right? Governments don't really have to do anything. They just have to do their jobs.
Right.
Right? They were hired to do something, do that, you know? And if they're not hired, then, you know, keep running, you know? But all they have to do is their jobs. That's it.
Okay. My question to you is, how do you see technology sharing peace or conflict in the next 20 years?
Yeah. We have to reevaluate everything that we know for like the last 13,000 years.
Okay.
There was a lot of impetus for what we have, right? Like best politicians money can buy, right? Well, it's also best medicine money can buy. It's
Right.
best science money can buy. It's best everything that money can buy. Everything's got a price tag on it. And that needs to be reevaluated. There's a lot of stuff out there that we just don't know because there's no dollar amount associated with it.
Right.
You know? So we don't find that out. And unless you're like a researcher like me, you would never have been exposed to that. Which is why I say nobody needs to die for world peace, because nobody knew this stuff until now. So without fail, no persecution, no prosecution. And you're going to be angry when you read that book. There's no way around that. My editor did a great job trying to make me seem nice, you know?
Okay.
But yeah, the draft that I sent all the powers that be,
Right.
that was far from nice.
Okay.
That was about 5 times the size of that book, full of 4 instances and examples. So they got a lot more of an earful than y'all will. But you're going to be angry when you read that book, and nobody needs to die. You didn't know about it any better than they did. So we're all in this together, and we all come out of it together. We just snap out of it, and it literally takes no time at all. The prosecutor's office for the International Criminal Court tallies up the voices, right? And the rational, reasonable humans will have spoke, and they take that to the actual court justices themselves, letting them know, hey, you know, the rational minds have spoken, and this is what they want. Maybe you want to get the UN to pick a day.
Okay.
We pick a day, just like that.
Do you feel through this process there's any intimidation?
Not so far.
Oh, really?
They could swing away on me. Tread heavily around me. Yeah, go ahead. Swing away on me and see what happens. Now, everybody that I've met has been great. And even like the powers that be the world over, you know, all the elected leaders and everybody like that, they're like, yeah, you know, all right. So that's world peace. And nobody is swinging on me. I mean, we're all human. This is to our advantage. You ask like the Carl Sagans and the Stephen Hawkings and all of those guys, whoever chimed in on how long we got left, and it's between 400 and 600 years, with very, very few going past 400. I'll get us 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. We do that, I'll get us out to 1,000. But we're finished. People of Earth, hear me. We're done. That's it.
Okay.
Our species is extinct now. It's a genetic threshold we crossed from which there's no return. And if we're going to do this, we're actually going to do it for what survives us. We're taking 97% of the world's life with us when we go. That 3%, that's going to be like amoeba, protozoa, bacteria. You know, tardigrades won't make the cut.
Right.
You know, and they deserve a foothold. I mean, when we look at our family of man, all the different species that we walk the earth with, they looked upon us as the hope and promise of our species. They knew they were done. They weren't anything like us. We were the baby faces of the group, right? We didn't look like them. We were the social organisms. We didn't act like them. We were the hope and promise of our...
And specifically, who?
Homo erectus, Neanderthalensis, Denisovan, Floresiensis for a little while, Homo ergaster, Heidelbergensis for a little while. There were never more than 5 of us on Earth at any one time.
Right.
But we all knew each other. You know, we were all very familiar with, oh, those guys are over there, and yeah, those guys are over there. You know, we knew our planet, and they weren't making it simply because they weren't the same social organism that we came out of Africa wave after wave after wave. Same way we're going to approach Mars. We'll throw corpses at that place until eventually you get an entire family that gets to live for an entire lifetime, procreate, and perpetuate the settlement.
Okay.
You know, so and that's the same way we're going to approach Mars.
Okay.
But that's what we did, and it was clear that we were, the survivors. But we didn't crush those guys out of existence. They absorbed into us. They thought our women were beautiful and stuff. Of course, we didn't look anything like them, and they absorbed into us. It's why we're 3% Neanderthal DNA. It's why, portions of us are 5% Denisovan. They infused into us.
Okay.
The way humans roll is very, very different than the way we perceive it as now.
Right.
The majority, they're the kinder, the gentler, the more decent version of human. Think bonobo, not chimpanzee, right? They are the rational, reasonable, right action, advanced problem-solving types.
Okay.
They're the mind your manners and you keep your friends, right? They're the live and let live. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, guys. That's the majority of humans on the planet. The minority of like 40%, right, are the more aggressive. They're like the chimpanzee rather than the bonobo.
Okay. All right. So before we end the show, briefly, I need you to answer this question.
All right.
How can everyday people contribute to global peace efforts?
That's it right there, yeah. If you pick up the book, pass it around. I tried to get it to you for free. Apparently you can't do that on these online marketplaces. It's
Right.
world peace. I'm not selling to you. Just chime in, contribute
Okay.
your voice.
Well, it's been a pleasure, man, to have
Dude,
this
it's been
conversation, and we could do this forever.
I'd be happy to come back. I will talk to you guys anytime.
Right.
Hit up my publisher. Like I said, I'll show up at a
And tell them how they can
cafeteria.
actually contact you briefly.
Book Fuel is the publisher. You can reach out to them, and if you go to world-peace-research GoFundMe page, there's actually a contact organizer. You can hit me up too.
Okay. Welcome to come back anytime. You have an extended invitation.
I appreciate
And
that.
this has been another T-Lo video production, and you guys stay tuned for another episode. Thank you.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house. It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.